So this is willow charcoal, and this is a sanding palette. I'm going to show you guys how to keep a charcoal drawing expressive. So this is a really big piece. It's actually a half piece, but really thick piece of willow charcoal. When I tone that page with that initial like slap of the material, it helps me so that I'm not working directly on a blank white piece of paper. That can be pretty intimidating for some people. So now I'm going to look at the angle of the portrait, the angle of the portrait I'm looking at actually here on the iPad, and it's angled slightly this way. So I'm going to have like an activation line, just go diagonal there, and then the neck actually comes down this way. So I want to follow that flow there, and I'll kind of wrap around this way. When you see almost like a cylinder in perspective, you can actually follow the curve of a cylinder. And if we think about the head of a combination of simple shapes, I'm going to follow that curve and start to kind of create my shading and find where everything is with my proportions based on that slightly, kind of exaggerated. So you can have those lines going further than the actual portrait itself, and it'll still look good. It'll keep it expressive. It means do not get too tight and small when you're drawing. Do not use the edge or the tip of a pencil like this. You're not going to be able to stay expressive this way. Hold it like that or like this and kind of flow with it. Be thoughtful of where you put your marks so that where you overlap the mark making the most, you get darker shadows in those areas. The cool thing about willow charcoal is that it gets pretty dark without getting too dark, because when I come back with my compressed charcoal, it's actually going to be dark enough that I could push the shadows even further and clarify where everything is. And if you follow, instead of going perpendicular with the charcoal itself, that'll make a big mark, kind of like that. But if you follow the actual angle of the charcoal, it'll create these lines here, this edge. You can use this edge, and if you lose that edge because of natural sanding from the paper, you can swap it to the other edge, just like that. Kind of getting that, the center of the face is tilted to this side because you have the angle looking that way. So we'll base the shadows of the mouth and of the nose from that. Starting to lose a little bit of that feel of the light hitting the face. So I'm gonna come in with this brand new blending stump. Look at that, pretty clean, but I'm gonna get it dirty real quick. It's just rolled up paper, cardboard. Don't lose too much of all those shadows, but stay expressive, free-flowing. Give it some noise, some texture. But you see, if I go over the shadows too much, I'm gonna lose that, so be careful with that. This is more for the midtones. A bit of a blend there. Now I'm gonna take this, it's a compressed charcoal. It's actually, technically, this is a compressed pastel black, soft pastel black. You can use them interchangeably. They're almost the same thing, just this one has a little more of a clay feel in it. I'll break that. This could go a lot darker than the willow charcoal. So it's a little more buttery than a compressed charcoal. But this will allow me to pull in and push some of these shadows darker, further, and refine the same information that I already have on there, or refine and make it a little better. Also, if you want to keep it expressive, find that shadow side of the face, and you can kind of blend that in to the background a little bit. You don't really have to worry about the edge there. Just kind of get chaotic with it. You really have to be more refined, even in expressive drawing, where that light hits the shadows. That's where you want most of our information to stay. Working my way down from these proportions. The closer you get to the outside edge of the paper, the more expressive you want to be, the more free-flowing, careless you want to be. But you want to be more careful out here when you get closer to those intricate facial features. Now when I get down here to the neck, I can have some gestural lines, giving it some structure and flow, even hinting at where the ear is, but we don't need too much information there. It's a little too crispy clear out there, so I'll blend that out a little bit. Some shadow of the hair. Not really focused on the hair either, but kind of hinting at that. Cool. Now we're getting a feel for the piece. Let's take this kneaded eraser, stretch it out a little bit, warm it up a little bit, so we can chisel it to a nice shape, just like that, the chisel shape. I'm gonna use it a little bit and then reform it every time I use it. Come in with the highlight, start to push the light areas. Bigger shapes to smaller shapes. I want to keep all this stuff expressive and just kind of refine where the light's hitting the facial features that are really important. There's a little bit of light hitting this shadow side of the face there, but not much. Let me pop that in. Okay. Some light, drop it in some light, find those angles. This isn't perfect yet, but we're getting a nice feel for it. You can't refine and start to be too detailed yet. It's important to get the whole feel of the drawing first. You want the drawing to be in a place where it looks really nice without it being detailed. That's when you know you can start to get into the details. If you're popping in details before it looks like a nice drawing, too early. You're gonna have a polished turd. So my art teacher used to call it. That means a drawing that's not very good, but it's polished up. So, but what's the point of that, right? You wanna have a beautiful, expressive drawing. Have a lot of movement in there, but know where to balance that movement. And it comes with time. It's not something that I, for myself, picked up immediately while just scribbling around. All of a sudden it was a great drawing. No, that didn't happen. It took a lot of practice and a lot of trying to find the balance and the harmony of where you have expression and where you have detail. It's a hard thing to kind of unlock, but totally doable. Even this one needs a lot of work. I really like the look and feel of this going on so far, so I want to refine a little bit. Pretty happy with that, so I'm going to take this woodless charcoal pencil and I'm going to start kind of clarifying some of these shadows. But I'm not holding it like this, keep in mind, right? Like I'm not making tiny little lines and tiny little wrist efforts this way. I'm still using a lot of my shoulder for these angles and details. Well, I could call them details even though they're not that small because I'm not working as big as I was just a second ago. You gotta let the viewer's mind do a lot of the work. It's a little more interesting that way. Give them enough information to kind of find it interesting though. Because if the viewer's mind is doing all the work, that's just abstract work. We don't want that. We want expressive work, which means that it still has an element of realism to it, but it also has like abstract elements to the way you represent that realism. All right. I keep working on this piece for a long time, but kind of like where it's at. I think it's a nice free-flowing sketch. just a little bit more noise and texture coming off here. We could totally work on the hair as long as we want. We could bring this shadow here to kind of break off into chaos. But we kept a lot of expression in this piece. Just wanted to show you guys a little bit of how I keep my expression in my work. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. If you guys want more information on materials or courses and where my artwork is available, just check the description down in the link below. Thanks for watching, guys.